Comair announced its closure, there's been a gap in the market, leading to sharp increases in domestic flight prices in recent months. So according to recent data, international flights are set to become cheaper, while domestic flights will soon stabilize. The International Air Transport Association has also released its own market figures, showing that domestic passenger markets are recovering faster than even before COVID-19. Let's get you a sense of what we should make of this data, especially in the lead-up to the holiday season. Bring in aviation expert Linden Birns, who joins us now via our video link this morning. Linden, great to see you. Thanks very much indeed for making time. I mean, part of what the data suggests is that, for instance, in Africa, airlines are actually seeing an 84% increase in demand since COVID-19. Are we able to match that demand, though, with the requisite supply?
I think we are, and hi, good morning to everyone. And I just want to correct something in the intro there. I don't think it's accurate to say that since the exit of Comair, that specifically triggered the rise in airfares. I think we're dealing with a situation where the price of jet fuel, specifically here facing some of our airlines, is that they're dealing with a 200% increase in the price of jet fuel compared with this time last year.
Is it fair to say, though, point taken, thanks for that, by the way, is it fair to still point out, though, that the exit of Comair and the market share that they held has also exacerbated that?
I think we need to take a far bigger view of that. In fact, the biggest exit or the biggest loss of capacity came with SAA's downsizing. SAA is now 20% of what it was in terms of fleet, and probably only about 10% of what it was in terms of routes, in terms of capacity in the market, and in terms of its network that it's serving compared to what it was in 2019. And that was by far the biggest player. Comair was important. It occupied about 40% of the markets on the routes that it flew, but not the total market. So there are some things are blown up a little bit out of proportion. And I think at the same time, we've seen the remaining incumbent airlines expanding their fleets, acquiring additional capacity. We've got FlySafair who've grown their fleet and added additional flights to their schedule. The same with Airlink. Airlink have now got more than 60 aeroplanes. And Semair doing the same thing, and then we've had the addition of Lift in the market. So I think there's plenty of capacity. We're still in our market around about 35% below 2019 levels. And although, yes, we're seeing a fast recovery in the domestic market, this is a global trend, but we are coming off what have been historically for the last 2 years very low baselines. So right. It's not surprising that recovery, those recovery numbers should be so large.
Sure. What we've also seen many of these companies do is actually scale down on their staff as well, and not just those who are part of the crew, for instance, in the particular aircraft, but those also running the behind the scenes, for lack of a better term. To what extent is that affecting our ability to respond to this uptick, if at all?
Yeah. We're not as badly affected in the sense that we've not seen the chaos that's characterized the surge in air travel in Europe over the last 3 or 4 months. So we don't have that particular chaos here with backlogs at airports and long queues and capacity caps being implemented by the airports because they can't cope. Here it's very different. Yes, we shed a lot of jobs, but we are seeing a lot of people coming back into the industry. Remember, a lot of those jobs also catalytic. They're across the tourism and hospitality sector as well. So with the relaxation of all the COVID restrictions, a lot of those jobs are coming back pretty quickly too. And really what needs to be done now ahead of the summer season, the summer peak, is that we need to make sure that all of the other things like Home Affairs processing visa applications and airports making sure that they have sufficient security personnel and that all the necessary people are vetted and have got all the right security clearances to work at airports, that all of those things are in place, that we learn the lessons that have come up from what we've just seen happening in Europe, for example, or in Australia.
Yeah, I'm so glad you bring up the issue around visas, because it's been a headache for many people, at least in my circles, who've been hoping to leave the country for all kinds of reasons, in some instances, including business. I mean,
Yeah.
From what you know, how big an issue is that? And in case some of our viewers aren't following, there is an incredible backlog in getting some visas to places including the US, the UK, and some other countries in Europe. Part of the explanation that's been given so far is that during COVID-19, those officers downscaled dramatically.
Yes.
Some of those workers are either refusing to come back or, in fact, have found other jobs. What kind of complications is this adding? Yeah.
Absolutely, and it works both ways. It's not just the other countries' consular services that have got backlogs, when we're trying to get visas to travel. It also is affecting people wanting to come and visit South Africa who are experiencing problems with our own consular services around the world and with Home Affairs. And we've just seen in the last couple of days, Home Affairs announcing a change in their policies. They're no longer going to send all of the visa applications for essential skilled people to Pretoria for processing because they've just created a huge bottleneck. They're now going to allow the consulates around the world to do that themselves. And I think the problem with the visa situation at the moment is a lot of the governments are outsourcing their visa processes to third-party organizations. And they're obviously charging fees, and there's a danger that if the cost of getting visas goes up any further at a time when people's disposable income and their ability to spend money on travel is crimped at the moment by the inflationary economy, then that's just going to act as a further deterrent. And it's not going to help our economy. It's not going to help tourism. It certainly won't help. It'll be a handbrake on job creation. And this is something that really, governments need to be looking at. It's not just visas; it's everything else. If we're going to increase, for example, the air passenger tax or the passenger safety charge that are levied on air tickets in this country, which are used to fund they're the biggest sources of revenue for the Civil Aviation Authority, for example. If those prices go up, if those statutory charges increase, again, you end up marginalizing people who might have flown but now won't, or might have taken a trip and now won't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've already explained to us, part of perhaps the reasons why there may have been challenges when it comes to capacity domestically in this country, SAA and in some parts Comair. Do you reckon that there still is a gap for new entrants to enter the market, given the challenges that come with keeping, certain airlines going in this country?
Yeah, look, we have on the domestic side, we have a very open competitive framework, a regulatory framework that says if you meet all the thresholds in terms of safety, capital and ownership, then you can apply for a license and put your hat in the ring and go and compete. And I think what's important is that, competition is always good. It helps to keep everyone on their toes. It drives efficiencies and it's good for the economy. The challenge we've had in the past is that the rules have not always been applied consistently, and the playing fields haven't always been level. They've been tilted. And what we need now is a situation where, for example, if SAA is going to come back into the market, or if Mango is going to return, that they should be treated the same way as the other private sector carriers are treated, with the same rules. And the one thing that we have seen over the last couple of years is that private sector does just as good a job as government-owned airlines when it comes to developing new routes and opening up markets and playing that development role the government likes to say that it should be doing. We've seen that this is just as capable in the private sector. And if we look at things like just in the last couple of weeks, we've seen private sector airlines opening up new routes that have never been flown before. For example, Cape Town to Maputo with Airlink, and then Richards Bay about to come back online. All happening because of private sector initiatives.
Fascinating stuff. Linden Birns, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. Really do appreciate your time. Plenty to take from that discussion. Linden Birns is an aviation expert. Once again, appreciate your insights.